In this video, I'm going to talk about something called parametric equations. So a parametric equation is one defined where the x and y coordinates of your graph are given by two different functions. Okay, so the idea is we have this third parameter that we're going to call t, where if we plug in values for that parameter, it's going to give us our x and y coordinates that we're going to plot. Okay, so I'll just jump right into an example here. So we have a parametric equation that's defined as x equals t squared minus 3t and y equals t minus 1. So when you go to make an xy table for this, you're going to actually want to make a t xy table. And t, we can plug in any numbers that we want here, and that's going to give us coordinate points to plot for our graph. So when we go to actually graph it, we're not going to see these t values graphed over here. We're only going to see xy coordinate points. But these xy coordinate points are given or are achieved by plugging in these t values into these equations. So if we plug in -2, our x coordinate, if we plugged in -2, would be 4 plus 6, which would be 10. And our y coordinate, if we plugged in -2, would be -3. If we plug in -1, the x coordinate would be 4, and the y coordinate would be -2. If we plugged in 0, x coordinate would be 0, and the y coordinate would be -1. If we plug in 1, we're going to get -2 here, and we're going to get 0 here. Plugging in 2 would give us, 4 minus 6, which would be -2. And again, we get -1 here. If we plug in 3, we're going to get 9 minus 9, which would give us 0 here. And then we would have 2 here. If we plug in 4, 16 minus 12, that's going to give us 4. And if we plug in 4, our y coordinate would give us would be 3. And if we plug in 5, 25 minus 15, that's going to give us 10 here. And the y coordinate, if we plug in 5, would be 4. So I actually made this table because I wanted you to see that we actually have some symmetry going on here with our x coordinate. Now that's not you're not going to be able to probably figure out what t values you should be using to figure out that symmetry. So you just want to plug in as many t values as you can. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to plot these points. So I have the coordinate point 10, -3, which would be right here. I have the point 4, -2, 0, -1, -2, 0, -2. I believe this should be +1. Did I do that wrong? Yeah, sorry, this should be +1. -2, 1. 0, 2. 4, 3. Should be here. And 10, 4. And what you actually notice here is that our graph of this parametric equation is a sideways parabola. Okay? Now, that's not always going to be the case. You're going to get a lot of neat looking graphs when you start graphing parametric equations. So I've got a couple of sets down here that I've actually gone ahead and used Desmos to graph these. I'm going to explain how to use Desmos. We also have some trig functions involved here. So if you're not used to using trig functions, I would say that I would use Desmos for this to help you find what those graphs would look like. So this first one we have that x is sine of 2t and y is 2 cosine of t. And so the way that you enter that into Desmos is you just enter as a coordinate point. So our x coordinates are given by sine of 2t, and our y coordinates are given by 2 cosine t, and I enter that as an xy coordinate point, and it comes up something like this. Now, you can change over what range of values you want that t value to exist. So I'm graphing from 0 to 2 pi, which again would make more sense if you had knowledge of trig functions and how they work. But we got like a figure 8 here, which is really neat. And the second one we had that the x was given by t plus 2 sine of 2t, and the y was given by t plus 2 cosine of 5t. Again, trig functions involved here. This time I'm going from negative 2 pi to 2 pi, just so you can see more of this graph. And it gives us something like this. Again, something really kind of unique that you've never seen before. Now, obviously, I don't think anyone would ask you to graph this by hand. Okay, so it's nice to have a graphing calculator that will do this. But you could mess around with these and try different parametric equations and try different range of values to see what kind of graphs you can get. You get a lot of really neat things when you start graphing parametric curves.